Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video 232, The Family Companion and Physician. This is an interesting sort of... I'll get into the content. It's sort of the missing link between the older and slightly more modern periods of alternative medicine, you could say. Interesting, fascinating work. 65 pages. Link in the description to my edition on Amazon. Second and third links are to my books blogs. If you go under the herbal heading, you'll find other works of similar style. Herbal medicine, including actual herbals, circulars involving alternative medicine, a few homeopathic works, and some quack doctoring as well. I'm fascinated by this subject. This subject and fortune telling are the two I like the most, which is funny because they're the most like labor of love style works that other people tend not to be interested in. I like, sort of the arcane, out there ephemera of the literary world. Anyway, this particular work, mid 19th century, so around the Civil War period. During this period, you have a mix of the superstitious style, like grimoires, literally of old. They're starting to change, and the latter day, like Enlightenment grimoires, like maybe like the Petit Albert or something. They always contained herbal. They would contain incantations and superstitious stuff, but they would also have herbal remedies, animal husbandry tips, relationship stuff, simple parlor tricks and stuff. Everything was wrapped up in these grimoires. In this period of time where this work is from, you get a lack of the more superstitious side, and they try to put more scientific rigor into it, and sometimes it becomes hilarious. Like there's a lecture within this work that like talks about self-abuse, which is, we now know this is masturbation, and how it causes lunacy and abnormalities of the skeleton and stuff like that. It talks about moral ills. We're talking the early wave of what would become the prohibitionist movement at this point already. You've got temperance creeping in. You've got a lot of superstition in the medicine, but it was presented as though it was modern and rational, and that the prior era was superstitious, which is funny because in some cases the things said in the prior era technically make more medical sense. There are also preparations in this work for different medicines for various things like cough drops and what is it called, fire powder or something for burns. And it's very, very interesting. Balm of Gilead is mentioned, various healing ointments and things of that nature. So it's a fascinating work. It's not just a standard work of, well, here's a list of medicinal species. It does contain some of that, but it's not an herbal. And it's not simply an apothecarian preparation sheet with recipes, because it also goes into the symptoms of disease and some of this moral lecturedom. It's a very interesting work. This is one of the best of the works within the realm of like medicine and medical history that I've edited. Fascinating in nature. Again, it's 65 pages, so it's a bit on the short side, but it is kind of dense. Like the lecture is certainly the densest part of it. But I think there are roughly 30 or 40 different preparations, like recipes, and simple instructions for use. I do not recommend any of the medical advice in these works, by the way, this or any other. Some of them contain material like henbane and shit like that that could be dangerous to you. That being said, though, at the time, it was rational enough. I mean, some of the things mentioned are medically active. It's not that they aren't. It's just that there are standardized medicines today that maybe are more effective or more safe because they're standardized. Now take 10 drops of this oil that might have different amounts of this alkaloid that's actually giving you relief of symptoms because of the difference in temperature, growing conditions in some way. That could be dangerous because you could overdose very easily. Within herbal medicine, that is a problem, basically, because you don't have a standardized preparation, or only semi-standardized in the case of the mid-19th century. Fascinating work, highly recommended. A bit of medical history with your superstition and with your moralism. Exactly the kind of work I'm interested in. Again, link in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon that's for sale. Second and third links to my books blogs. If this is the kind of thing that tickles your fancy, I've got you covered with over a dozen works within the herbalistic header. Very, very interesting material. Very cool plant lore as well. That's about all. Peace out.